All right, YouTube, we're back. It's been a long winter, and we've got some suspension done and a huge mess. Tractors in the truck. That's just how things are going to be. But today we are trying the reinstallation of the new steering column. So, with morning light and stuff like that, it's going to be a little tricky, but here we are, old to new, or old to rebuilt. They're both old. Why am I replacing it? Some people might ask. Well, if you take a quick look, we have now officially maxed out the adjuster. So you can see that center screw is on the inside of that nut, and that was despite my best adjustments last summer. I still had some crazy, I don't want to call it bump steer, but something similar. Now if you look, it's all spray painted black. The adjuster nut is all the way down with the adjusting screw there. So I could show you how it looks in that. Maybe I'll show you in a couple minutes after I open it up. But the main difference is, if you watch the arm by my foot, I'm going to rotate where the steering wheel goes, and I've started spinning it, and that hasn't even moved yet. So the worm gear or spline gear or whatever it is loose. Whereas this guy, the second I'm touching it, so you can see moving up here, there's a smooth movement, and the second I move, you can see the ever so slight movement on the shaft. So there's no play in that. So, whoa! Well, that was the old one. So we are going to work on getting this new guy, or new rebuilt guy, trying to do everything one-handed here, into this engine compartment right here, up through that hole in the firewall, with the bolts on that frame and the pitman arm installed, all these parts. And once I do that, we can potentially get the exhaust back on, and that's it. So here we go.
All right, it is about at this point where I'm crawling underneath the car. You can tell this is a after the fact narration, but I am laying on my back on a cold concrete floor. I am trying to line up a steering column that probably weighs 60 to 70 pounds. And I'm going to try and fish it up past the front axle with it dropped between the frame rails, and there it is, breaching the surface like a whale. So with something that's like 2.5, probably 3.5 feet long, the difficulty is lining it up with a bad angle. And I think I stall out there, but that's okay. And if I weren't narrating this right now, you'd hear me grunting and groaning. So there I am going through the shaft seal, drive shaft seal on the floor, and fishing it up. At this point, I had my hand on the bottom of the steering box, and in all honesty, it went in a heck of a lot easier than it came out, which is super helpful. So at this point, it was up in the air, and I had to get the steering shaft where the pitman arm goes through the frame rail. Once I had that done, it's a matter of lining up the 3 bolts and the 3 bolt holes and getting it done. So there's the big ta-da. So you all are about to have some of the worst editing you've probably ever seen, because I cannot figure out in this audio program how to shut off the audio from the first track, which is the video, while I do the voiceover. So I'm going to do the best I can, and hopefully you can hear it. But with the pitman arm shaft, or the steering box shaft, or I don't know what you want to call it at this point. You can see my brand new brake hoses, though, and I'm quite proud. I anti-seize the 3 bolts that are going to go in through the frame, through the steering box flange or case, and then I have to crawl underneath, reach under there, and put, the nut on the back side of it. So you'll probably see pretty soon here that I take the watch off so I don't destroy it. My grandfather, God bless his soul, would appreciate that. But grabbing the shaft and moving it slightly, you can get the anti-seize bolts in, and it takes a little bit of finagling, but it eventually happens. And you can see that I have the struggle trying between the 2 or the 3. And if I were better at video editing, none of this would be in here. So we can hear something in the background, I'm sure, at this point, and that's okay. But I'm off screen right now, struggling, getting things ready, and I realize it's probably best to just crawl underneath at this point and move things around. So the weight of the steering shaft and the steering box, the whole assembly, because that's how they did it apparently in the 50s, was in need of some shuffling or movement. So that's what I ended up doing. And had I known this at this point, my suggestion, if anyone's watching this, who's going to actually do one of these installs, is bolt up the column drop now, and then have the bolts do it later, because I had a slight offset, which was kind of a bit of a struggle to get that on. So you can see now I've got the car up on the quick jacks, and I've got the one bolt getting started and arms pretty much straddling or reaching around both sides of the frame, which is pretty difficult here. But gloves were key. I went through a ton, um, but in the end, I was able to actually get it all in and bolted up, which was delightful. So the struggle was real for quite some time just to get them all started, get it aligned, get it in the place. And once you have those three in and in the place, I highly suggest getting that column drop bolted up. So I'm recording this audio several months later, or a month and a half later. And the reality is, I still haven't taken the car out for a drive yet because the weather's just been horrible. And we're in the midst of a global pandemic. So I've been home from work. I haven't been teaching school. And since daycares and everything are all shut down, I've actually been daddy daycare for the past couple of weeks, watching my daughter, which has been a blessing. But at the same time, it's not leaving me a vast amount of time to get work done on the truck. So I did, however, get the Mini running for the first time since last season. She actually fired right up, which was phenomenal. Waiting to do the 57. However, I just got the headers back on, just got the exhaust on, got the headers bolted back up, wheels on, brakes bled, all kinds of goodness. Some of those videos are soon to come. And then I ended up, I just have to fire it up. But before that, I got to figure out the firing order because I poorly labeled the wires. And then I'll be honest with you, I, I, I don't know the firing order. So here we are with the third bolt. Those are going in, coming in slow. This is going to be one of my longest YouTube videos, but hey, someone made a comment about make something over 10 minutes. Challenge accepted. So thumbs up on that. We got 3 bolts in. Then you can see my hand wizardry there. But we are now. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I think I faked this, but I got the ratchet in the back, and I drive these in with a DeWalt impact. But soon after, what I ended up doing was going at it with a breaker bar, making sure the box is secure. So it's at this point, it's time to put this Pitman arm on. And I used the existing one. I did not use the one that came with the rebuilt steering box from the gentleman I purchased it from in Pennsylvania, I believe. So the key with this is it's a spline shaft, but there are 2 spots where the splines are actually different. I'd say 12 and 6, depending on how you're putting it on. And what I did, as I had my fine cigar here while working, as I sometimes do, I realized this would be a million times easier if I didn't have. It's not the drag link, and I'm blanking on the term right now, but I had to make sure the splines were clean because it had been bouncing around a crusty frame, which is a clean frame. It's just got some road gunk from over the years. So I cleaned that up, cleaned the spline shaft from the box just to make sure it's all good. And part of the reason I did this was to, if you heard that weird seal or dolphin-like noise in the background, it was my daughter on the baby monitor right now. But the idea is so I could see the spline shaft and see the splines in the arm as good as possible to line it up. So although that's a great shot of my sleeve, I forgot the camera may have been there. I was trying to force it on at this point. It just wasn't going. And had the arm been separated from the drag link, this whole process would have been infinitely easier. So what I ended up doing was grabbing the drum and turning the steering wheel in some different directions, left and right, just to change the angle of approach with that. And I could not get it. My brain was not working with me. The shaft was not working with me on that point. So I want to say I shut the camera off for a little bit. I adjust my approach, and then I work some off camera magic to get it all lined up. So, well, that's my daughter again. Let's turn that down. But it's all about the carburetor cleaner at this point. Getting that on, getting it clean, and getting it together. So this is me anti-seizing the shaft a little bit in the event that the pitman arm has to come back off. And part of me was thinking this might not be a great idea because you probably want it as dry and sticky as possible. God forbid that nut ever comes loose. But you can see my overexcitement. I have it lined up, and now it's just a matter of driving the pitman arm on that shaft with the gigantically huge oversized nut and washer, which those I use the nice painted ones, even though they're not nice, but they are painted. Just thread it on beautifully. Bam. Now that gets tightened up. Yes, off camera. There's the steering column and my horrible, horrible lighting. The bottom bolt-on column drop. Just a few nuts and bolts away at this point. And it was a matter of moving the shaft around, getting the seal on, and bolting it up pretty easily. I know my lighting is horrible on this, but I'm kind of a mechanic-y person, and I'm definitely not a camera edity person. So all this is one-handed with a DSLR in my hand, trying to get it lined up while I put like a 7 or 9 pound steering wheel, used to have muscles, back on one-handed. And just like that, we're coming to a close. The steering column's in, and we're ready to drive. Please like, please subscribe. Until next time, YouTube, you're the best, and your interest is the only thing that keeps me going. Peace.